Hello, this is Molly Reamer with Bridget's Grove, and I am here in my tiny temple to talk to you briefly about my Collage Goddess making process. I received a question about this, and I thought it might be worth doing a quick little video about how I create my Collage Goddesses. This year, I am making one new goddess for every month of the year, and each one to me kind of forms a visual representation, a visual journal, so to speak, a way of encapsulating that month and what I learned from it. And I would like to go ahead and be clear to start is that making something like this does not require buying anything from me. We do sell these wooden goddess shaped cutouts that I use for the Collage Goddesses in our Etsy shop, bridgetsgrove.etsy.com. Sometimes, more often than not, we don't have them in stock because we've kind of moved away from making wooden stuff very much this year. But so you can buy them from us. You can make one out of cardboard or another type of material that you cut out yourself. And I recommend using a paper template to trace around for your background and for your other shapes. So because it's easier if you're trying to use a pen, it's kind of hard to cram down between the wooden pieces to trace, but the paper is easy to trace around. And so I do have paper templates available in a free ritual kit from one of our newsletters from a couple of years ago, and I will link to that template below this video so that you can print it out and cut it out yourself. So I recommend having a base background that you can trace around for ease and for ease basically. And so I use the paper template to trace around the background, and if I was properly prepared for this video, I would have a magazine page to show you what I mean, but I don't actually have one, and since I'm out in the tiny temple, I do not have a magazine page handy. But basically, I choose a background image. Oh, I'll show you on my finished ones. So I choose a background image that tells me something about the month, and I tend to make these, or I try to make these, on the new moon following the month that is just finished. So I made my October Collage Goddess on the November new moon, and because I want to have the whole month completed before I make, because it's kind of my lesson of the month, and I don't want to have the month still have days left in it. So you can see the background. We traveled to the beach in October, and so from a travel magazine, I cut out a picture of the palm trees and the sunrise, and that's what I used for her background because it says something about the month. But since it was also Halloween, I had a tag from a pumpkin t-shirt that I cut out and added to her. So even though we were with the palm trees, then later in the month it was Samhain, and so I wanted that represented as well. And so I often use things that are representative of something where I was, or something that I was doing at the time. And so our new business cards came in also, and that's what I used that for, but I cut it out to be the proper season. And then this one was from August, and we also traveled in August, and so the little animals that are cut out were from the note paper that was in the condo room that we stayed in on that trip, and that's where those came from. And we also saw, I only cut out examples of the animals that we'd actually seen while on that trip, and so that's what they're doing there. I find that a seed catalog or flower catalog works really awesomely for background images, but so do travel magazines. Old calendars or old Wee Moon date books are amazing for both words and images. So after I cut out, so this I'm going to use as an example as both my template and my background. It does not have a pretty enough background, but probably that I would really use it, but it'll do for this illustration. I just use white glue, Elmer's white glue, and I glue down the base. I glue down the background image first to the wood. I usually let it dry and go off and print my little poems and other things that I'm going to use while it is drying. If you don't let it dry, it has a tendency to get a little bit wrinkly behind your other words. So I glue that down, And then I usually have a large pile of other things around me that I want to use, and as I said, things that encapsulate stuff about the month to me. So this month we were traveling and watched the sunsets and sunrises, and this one this month involved a lot of reflection and introspection, and so I wanted a background image that was reflective and introspective for that. This was my first one of the year, and so it has shells. We travel in January to the beach, and so it has shells for January, waves, sunset, etc. But also, different things like that. Same one I already showed. I was watching hawks a lot this month, so I made sure to put one in her head for watching. Oh yeah, and I was thinking about the Maiden and Persephone. It was a big part of my life this year, and so I made sure to have the Maiden represented there, as well as the Grain Goddess. This one, I was trying something a little different. I used a pour painted background instead of a collage background. It's not focusing very well. Just a second. I used a pour painted background instead. This is probably my least favorite one that I did this year, but I did added another piece behind it, and this one too, more Persephone imagery. Also lighting a fire, watching geese, tending their flame. And then word-wise, sometimes I cut up cards or postcards that I've received also to keep things together. This one's another one that has a 3D component that was pour painted. Been listening a lot to crows this year, learning from butterflies, being joyful. Have my little brass thing I found at the thrift shop to store them in. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these when I'm finished, but I picture putting them together in some kind of interesting final display. So anyway, then to pick the words. So the images all come from things I learned that month. They're all things that, so I had the cards here because they're easy to cut up and use, and they have words on the back of them too, if you ever want to cut those out and use them. But I pick things out that make me think of the lessons of that month, the things I want to remember, the visual depiction and illustration of that month in my life. And then for poems, because I write a lot of poems, I go through the things I've written. It's important to me that I use poems that I wrote that month on that month's goddess. And so I go through things that I've written that seem like likely candidates and print them out. So these are actually ones that didn't make the cut for my October goddess, but I have these printed out, and then I look through them, and I often end up combining lines from two poems into like a new mini encapsulation poem. And I was just gonna say, like, if you are a writer yourself, you might want to do the same with your own poems. If you are not, you are welcome to print out anything that I've written and use it on your Collage Goddess. I would be honored to have my words represented in your visual depiction of your month or your year. So feel free to print anything that I've written and cut it up and make it into your own poem. So I will sometimes find something like this. So it says, sink into surprise, letting the wind curl on your shoulders to stroke your spine. I might only take sink into surprise from that, and then I might take collect the shards of your spirit, and then I might take soften into wildness, and then I'll arrange that back on the goddess in the way that feels pleasing to me or forms that message that encapsulates the month for me. So this takes quite a while, and I find it, I spread it all out around me, and I have to have some time and space to be in the mood to do it. But I've also found that it's a type of accountability or promise keeping to myself that I have continued to do it through the year, because sometimes I'll be like, oh my gosh, the last thing I want to do really is now be forcing myself to make a collage, because what's the point? Why would you force yourself to make a collage? Nobody, that's silly. But then once I allow myself the space to soften into it, and I start collecting the little materials and picking up the little cards and getting the poems printed out, and starting to think about the background image, and I find myself softening into that, I feel really good about keeping the promise to myself, because I said at the beginning of the year, I'm going to make one of these for each month of the year, and it feels good to keep my promise to myself, and it forms this little opportunity for reflection, contemplation, but also for accountability, and also kind of a little ritual exploration of each month, and a soaking in the completion of the month instead of zooming into the next one. So I do apologize that I don't have a little bit more demonstrated how-tos like cutting things up or what have you, but the main thing I wanted to point out is that you can use wooden backgrounds if you want to, but you can also use cardboard or bookboard or something recycled to make the background. That we do have the paper templates available for free that you can download and cut out yourself, that you can use poems, that you have, or quotes work really good. Oh, and then magazine, you can cut out your own found poetry from magazines and put those words together in the way that are pleasing to you. And you can also make kind of vision board, vision collage style things with magazine words as well. But you're welcome to do that. And obviously you don't have to make one every month of the year, but if you do, I do find it a really nice ritual acknowledgement of your work of each month, and a kind of an honoring, a sealing, and a ceremonial acknowledgement of what you have learned, more than what you've done, but more like what you have learned or what you have felt that month. So I hope that helped explain my process, the whys, so to speak, of doing this, and inspire and encourage you to make one of your own and take it in whatever direction you feel like going. So thank you for being here and for watching. I will talk to you later. Bye.